Of Beneath the Rain Shadow Season 2. In this show, we will dissect and explore the early writing and editing process through prompt-inspired stories and monthly live story critiques with our 4 hosts. Back from last season, we have co-authors of Rain Shadows Volume 1, Tamara K. Salmon, and me, Clay Vermola. And new to the team, we have 2 very exciting additions in Gordon B. White and M. Leigh. We hope you'll join us each month for some deeper insight into the creative process and all the fun we're sure to have along the way. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the show. Greetings, readers, writers, listeners. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Beneath the Rain Shadow, the show where we create prompt-inspired horror stories with the intention of putting them on a collection next year. But what we're going to do today is critique our second story in the lineup, which is M. Leigh's Bait, based on the prompt Nuclear Shenanigans, Washington State Amtrak Line, and Salmon. So that's a pretty good eclectic little mix there, M. Leigh. We're really all thrilled about the story you turned in, and we're excited to talk about it. But before we do that, we have a couple other little segments that I'm going to let Tamara K. Salmon, my co-host and co-editor and co-author and friend, lead us through because her voice is a lot less annoying than mine. Tamara, take it away.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. No one likes their own voice. Come on. You know that. You know that as a podcaster. So it's almost March. Can you believe it? But just a couple of weeks ago, we had Valentine's Day, and I was wondering when y'all first fell in love with horror. So I want to ask you guys, did you have a character that you fell in love with that was a horror character, or did you have a TV show or a movie or a book or an author, or what was the very first, the early puppy love for horror or romance for horror? Anybody want to jump right in?
I think I'll go. It was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh yeah,
that was probably my little kid puppy love crush with horror. I remember just sitting awake in my bed with a flashlight, just looking at those graphics over and over and over again. It was kind of the first time I really fell in love with the horror reveal of what is that creepy thing? What does it look like? And I think I kind of fell in love with that feeling, which I don't think any other genre does as well as horror, is that the reveal of what that creepy thing is. I kind of want to chasing that high of finding out the creepier and creepier thing. But yeah,
I just bought that book for the first time because I did not grow up with it, and everybody raves about that book, and so I'm like, I've got to read what see what I'm missing out on. So
yeah.
It depends on which version you got, because they redid them. The ones that I grew up with, probably you, Emily, were the Stephen Gamel like drippy watercolor pen and ink illustrations.
Yes.
Incredibly gruesome. I was so scared of those. Like, I wouldn't go to that section of the school library. Like, I honestly would not go to that.
Those illustrations were awesome.
They were the best.
They reissued them with like very like sort of like gothic and detailed like line drawings, but not nearly the sort of goopy nonsense that traumatized me as a child.
Yeah. I'll have to go. That might be a library field trip right there. Check them out.
You should.
It's interesting. So I have sort of like those kinds of things. I have sort of the same background, because what's really cool about the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is that the author of that, Alvin Schwartz, was a folklorist, and he collected all these different stories from the country. And you'll see in some of them, you recognize and be like, I heard that when I was a kid from my neighbor, or there'll be urban legends that you've seen before. And he took those and he boiled them down into like a very easy to understand, like, third grade level diction. And I had sort of the same thing, because my love comes from growing up listening to ghost stories that my dad would tell. And what he would do, though, is he would steal classic stories, like ones by like Algernon Blackwood or Arthur Machen, and then pretended they happened to him in rural North Carolina. So I swear to God, like the first time I heard the Willows, it was told to me as an actual thing that happened to him and his friend when they were going canoeing.
Wow.
And so growing up with that, because my dad's side was very much Baptist, Southern Baptist. He wasn't, but his family was. And they're like, we forget, I think, how much like among certain religious groups, they view the world through a lens of magical realism, where these kinds of things like the apocalypse and, the devil are very real things.
Mhm.
And, so having that, my sort of sense of boundaries has always been kind of porous. And now, as an old and jaded atheist, I don't have that sense of wonder anymore. But I find that horror fiction comes the closest to rekindling that.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's funny. My dad was also a storyteller, and he would tell. I remember this is not when I fell in love with horror, but he once told me the story of I was scared of spiders, and he told me the story of spiders that built a dome over the whole world and trapped us inside it, and that was not a good thing to do to your daughter.
No.
Completely like fortified the fear that I had for spiders. Now I'm not fearful of them at all. But most of my early input into or interest in horror was really in black and white. It was like a public TV channel playing creature feature. Old black and white movies with Dracula, Nosferatu, Frankenstein, all of werewolf, all that kind of stuff. And then I would say blending that with our whole family loved Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, a little bit more maybe speculative, but definitely scary. I mean, that William Shatner, whatever at 30,000 feet was so scary, just staying on the wing of the plane. And then, on top of that, I would say, what was the other thing I was thinking of? Oh, shoot. I guess probably just those crappy black and white movies. I think my first favorite monster was the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh yeah, so scary.
That mixed with the very original first version of the Snow Queen, who I was that was terrifying to me. The Snow Queen, that Disney animation, that really old one. So, and I'm figuring you like monsters, Clay.
Oh yes.
You probably started with monsters, but maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah. It's kind of a 3-part story for me, I guess, because if we're going to where I maybe very first fell in love with it, I would say like it has to be like Scooby-Doo. That was what I grew up with as my like gateway to horror drug. And my mom was a horror fan. She still is a huge horror fan. And so she introduced me to Scooby-Doo early, and that was like, and some of the earliest like more higher rated things I was allowed to watch were horror. Like I was allowed to watch The Sixth Sense at a pretty young age.
Nice.
And when I consider like the getting into like actual horror, like, cause I don't really consider Scooby-Doo to be scary. Even for kids, it wasn't scary to me. It was like, it was more a matter of I like monsters, and I thought that it was fun to figure out the mystery of the monster. But it's way more like the mystery genre, but it kind of gets you interested in monsters. And then once you get, but like my first thing that was like, oh, I actually like being scared, and I'm going to start going to seek that out. I would have to, unfortunately, like tip the cap to M. Night Shyamalan for that. Early M. Night Shyamalan had a good run, with Signs and The Sixth Sense.
Oh my God.
Those were a couple of my first 2 films. And then another one that's a little more under the radar that terrified the hell out of me was The Ghost in the Darkness. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. That movie's awesome.
Love
with the
that
lions.
movie.
Yeah, with the lions. It's, and I mean, maybe that's why I still like
taking notes.
In the Chicago Field Museum, they did have the bodies of them, the 2 lions.
Yeah, the Sava lions. Yeah, I think they're still
one of my life goals to go see those lions because I love that movie so much.
It's a good movie. I mean, it has its issues analyzed through a modern lens, but when I was a kid, and so I had to walk a half mile every day from the bus. So like the highway to my house was like a half mile walk, and it's like during a certain time of the year, it's like tall wheat fields on both sides of me. So like,
Oh, no.
when I first watched that movie, I was always walking through the wheat, and I was like trying to be the one guy from Ghost in the Darkness who can like look out and see the lion moving in the brush. And I was like, wait, maybe I don't want to be that guy. He's the first guy to get eaten, but
Yeah, right.
he was also a badass. Hashtag never forget. But yeah, so probably like those were some of the earliest films. And the first, like, once I realized I liked to be scared, the first book I sought out was Pet Sematary, which I did steal from my mom, and had hidden in my room for quite some time. It's the same place I hid all my like rap CDs and stuff, and eventually it all got reclaimed.
Were they your mom's rap CDs as well?
They were Eminem and 50 Cent and all that.
She's
kind
like,
of stuff.
listen, little Clay, if there's one thing you got to learn, it's fuck the police.
Absolutely. Yep. And I stole all that from her. That I used to listen to Curtain Call while I was mowing my neighbor's lawns and stuff for like $20 a lawn or whatever. Good times. But that was my intro to horror was Pet Sematary and Scooby-Doo and M. Night Shyamalan.
Scooby-Doo, I think that just goes back so long. I mean,
oh yeah,
goes
old
back,
school,
way back. Yeah,
and there's a good lesson there too, which is that the real monsters is always capitalism.
Yep.
It's always an old white guy.
Pretty much.
True.
For an old white guy.
Yep.
Yep,
right.
That's true. And Emily explores that a little bit in her story as well. That same kind of idea. So,
yeah, I was going to say I'm
celebrating
Emily's story by my background today, which is of the Columbia River Gorge.
Yeah.
It's for those who can see this. I know not everyone is. Some people are just listening, but it's a beautiful scene of the Columbia River Gorge, and Emily definitely takes us there.
Mm-hmm.
Really up close and personal.
Oh yeah, all up into it.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, shall we get into critiquing this story since we're all so excited to do so?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Right. Sure. Who wants to start? You want to start, Tamara?
Oh, sure.
And I can get us a timer going.
Yeah, let me.
How long do we do this for again?
I think we did 6 minutes last time.
What?
I think it was 5.
I thought it was like 2.
5. It wasn't 2, that's for sure.
It was definitely more than 2. 2, you can really just clear your throat.
You want to do 6, 5? We got time.
Okay. Yeah. Just tell me when.
Okay.
And then are we going to do a 1-minute warning?
Yeah, I'll give you a 1-minute warning for sure.
Okay, cool. All right. Let's see here. Okay. All right, Emily, we're talking about a story called Bait.
Yes.
And
which
can you,
I will say,
Tamara, before you do your critique, do you mind giving us a quick synopsis just so the audience has a little better understanding what we're talking about?
The story of Bait. Okay. The story of Bait, B-A-I-T, is I would say it's a legit apocalypse or survival horror story that features the 3 prompts that we mentioned earlier, which is nuclear shenanigans, Amtrak in Washington State, and the quirk of Salmon. And we basically are on an Amtrak ride. I think it's called the Empire Builder, that follows the north. I believe it's the north side of the state, the Columbia River that separates. It creates the natural border between Washington and Oregon State, and our main characters going to Pasco, which is in the Tri-Cities, and some things happen that are terrifying along the way. Some things that are very personal that have to do with an encounter with a particular passenger. Then there is a global horrifying disaster event, and then an event that takes place on the train. And this sort of intersection of horrors, we get to know the character, and we get to see how she resolves some of her fears, let's just say, at the very end. So hopefully I don't want to spoil too much. I mean, we're going to spoil a few things, but that's the story that's my quick summary.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is
now
that good?
Start your timer. Yep.
Okay. And I'm off. All right. So I love horror that is apocalypse, end of the world, survival. So this is perfect for me. Um, there's this fear factor of going through this random man-made disaster that's on a global level with this person, this character. His name is Kevin, which Cameron can't, the main character, just can't even trust. And we'll learn more as we go along about him. I wanted to say the things that worked for me in this story is that I really liked the main character, Cameron's chutzpah and her drive to survive, as well as leaning into her instincts about Kevin. I found her quite relatable. She was young, but she had her guard up. She's doing this trip to go visit her mother, who I think has cancer. And he comes in and he creates this toxic space for her that she can't get away from him. And then we have, a nuclear event, let's just say. And while they're driving, while the train is heading toward this nuclear event, the train itself has its own event. So I wanted to say, I like that you made all the tropes work. I mean, every single one that or the tropes, the prompts, they all worked for me. Other things that work for me, the dialogue works really well. Um, I like that in the nuclear event, there's really no explanation for what really happened because you really, in those situations, can't know. And that just adds to the kind of sense of unease and, leaving the reader unsettled because you're lacking information. And when you, especially in a nuclear incident, the information you really need to know because you need to know, you know, what to do in a situation like this because the enemy really is radiation and it's invisible by and large. So it's really scary. We're not all trained in nuclear, disaster response. I was a little bit when I was a kid, only because I'm old enough to have been part of that scenario. But anyway, I thought it was really good. There was just so many scary things happening that were piled on top of each other. I also really liked this sort of common 3 a.m. worry about what would you do if there was like this, nuclear event. And this main character, Cameron, she's kind of like, oh, I wish I'd studied something else. I think we'd all be doing that. Like, oh, I wish I'd studied more of this in school because now I'm in the shit zone and I don't know what to do. So I like that. That was really relatable. There was, as far as writing goes, there were some very nice lines and a close point of view that with some good, solid interior monologue that added some texture that I liked. I checked some of the logistics in terms of how this could possibly happen, and it could absolutely happen based on the route and where the crash happens and all of that. So um, let's see. And I thought it was really interesting that Cameron's instincts really saved her. I love that. I loved the title of the story because it's also kind of an ongoing theme, the idea of bait. You've got several kinds of bait in the story. You've got, hold on a second here. You've got the Kevin kind of trying to bait her, and she understands he's trying to bait her. She sees the two sisters. It was just this formation on the river that has bait as part of the folklore legend behind it. You've got salmon that have been baited in the water, let's just say. And I also really liked the idea that Kevin is stealing her time. And I almost wish you could even go a little bit more into that because that is a female thing that we do feel like people are stealing our time. They're stealing our energy and our time. It's like everyone is siphoning everything, our life source, just for the fact that we're present and alive in a space. It's like everyone feels like we should be of service to them. And so I really liked that she called that out. That's like a maybe not something that's spoken of a lot. So I had a couple of bumps. There were some logisticals about just the actual scenario of the nuclear event, and so I grew up in a household that was very nuclear savvy, and I actually founded the Nuclear Awareness Club in junior college way back, like 40 years ago, more than 40 years ago. And so I kind of know it was like everyone was like really worried about what would happen at ground zero. And so I found some links that I put into my notes for you, Melissa, that kind of can maybe help answer some questions about how nuclear
minute.
EMPs. Thank you. How nuclear EMPs might impact smartphones, for instance. And then there is an issue where she's building this kind of apron, but I don't know that it would be helpful for her because without lead, it's not going to do much in terms of blocking radiation. So anyway, I had a lot of questions. A couple of other bumps. Let's see, the word trafficking bumped me because I feel like trafficking means luring and abduction as opposed to just some like douchebag trying to hit on her. And I felt like he's kind of a piece of shit character, but I don't know that he was trying to traffic her. So that was one thing. Um, let's see. Oh, I am more here. I have lots of questions about the nuclear hazard. You'll see that in my notes. I would like to see maybe more of the evidence of what's going on in the actual landscape. And especially when it comes to wind, because that is a way to determine the dispersal of nuclear radiation fallout and that kind of thing. So, and I just thought that there could be some spots where you could sort of enhance the actual live action. Like when she finds the corn nuts, I want to be there with her. When she, stashes the fish in the purse, I want to see that. So, and I do have a suggestion that maybe marking time might, as things progress, might actually help with some of the story tension in the way that, things are going on and on. There's no rescue. There's no help. He's got sores on his face. All these things are a product of time passing and not getting to safety. So time staffing, it might be a way to add a little more tension and rev it up. Anyway, I think that's probably my time, and I have more to say, but you'll get all my notes, and I'm sure these guys will fill in for all the stuff that I didn't say, because there's a lot of good things to be said about the story. Thanks for writing it, and I can't wait to hear what everyone else has to say. I really enjoyed it, though. Took me back to a home place.
Gordon?
Sure. So I will go ahead and say I really liked it. I really liked the use you made of the prompts. There's a lot of really cool stuff in here structurally that sort of ties together. So I think there's a really awesome way that you keep using the refrains. Tamara hit on it with the stealing my time or stealing Cameron's time, but also to the bait. There's some other two repetitions, the story of Coyote and the sisters who were turned into rocks. It keeps threading through, and I think that's a really excellent way of sort of bringing everything together. It makes it feel very cohesive. It's also, too, it's a really good use of foreshadowing in the way that these things come back together, but also get subverted in the end with the final revelation of how it goes. So I think that's a really excellent way of using foreshadowing. It's giving a hint as to how things are going to go, but then taking them ultimately in a different direction. And that said, I really like a lot of the twists and turns in there. Tamara also hit on a really good one, which is the chutzpah of the character. I really liked. This story has it's a very grim thing, and you could do it in a very grim way, like the movie Threads or something, which is like the UK like nuclear fallout movie. But here, I think there's a lot of humor, and some of it comes from the internal dialogue, but a lot of it just comes from watching this character with very distinct point of view and how they react to a sort of messed up situation. So it's not like laugh out loud funny, but it is, smiling to yourself as you read it funny. I like that a lot. I also too really like the hints of the larger world out there. I think the relationship with the mother was done really well as a way of not just introducing the mother as an information source, but giving us insight into the character as well as reminding us that there is a larger world outside of just this narrow train car or two here on the Columbia River. So also too, I don't know anything about nuclear stuff, so I have no concerns about that. I did really like that the main character puts together a sort of like apron cobbled together of seats and a helmet, and I thought that was awesome, and I could just see that being illustrated by somebody in like fan art or like in a collection. There were a couple of places though that I got confused just on some of the specifics, things like what time of year was it, because I was picturing it being like summer, but then it's very cold, and Pacific Northwest, it's green all the time. So things like that, and like some sort of physical things like the dimensions of the metal rod that are there. sort of the geography of like where the train cars are and the train parts that are in the river versus somewhere else. As somebody who's not familiar with anything outside of my like 3 block radius, I didn't have a really good sense of what the physical space looked like, and so I think that's easy stuff to figure out and put in. I also too thought that there was places where you could definitely dive into more ickiness. I think that there's a lot of places where there's some cool, like creepy stuff that's handled kind of subtly. But I think if we're that close to the character, we might as well use that to sort of delve into it. Like there's a part in the train car that's really gross that I think could be even grosser. There's parts, with the guy when he returns and he's suffering the effects of radiation. I think it'd also be really gross. And along those lines too, I think that one of the ways too that could ratchet up the tension is not just because there's the exterior tension of the nuclear event and then of this other character, Kevin. But I think that the sort of backdrop of the nuclear event sort of loses focus as he takes more and more prominence. And I think if you just sort of maintain the tension of both of them, it would overall amp up the tension of the story. So things to like worrying, like I know if I was in that, like any aches or pains I would have would be like, it's like looking at like WebMD. It's like, oh, I've got a headache. Is it brain cancer or is it just like water? And so I think things like that, where you're like suffering exposure, perhaps a concussion, as well as these other things, just to sort of remind us that there is this other thing out there. It's not just a plot problem to solve. It's a threat to her. Yeah, and I think too, I think this story it's 5,800 words and it moves at a really nice clip. I think, it could be, if you were aiming for like 5,000 words, I think it could be tightened up a bit in some places. I think, for example, the beginning, it takes its time and it really breathes, but I don't think it really introduces us to much more of a wrinkle of what Kevin is. Like his character, I think you could easily cut the first section and then just sort of hop in.
1 minute.
Starting like in the second part, you could just hop in right there and do a little bit of weaving in of like how long he's been stalking her through the train. Then I do like though that it picks up at the end. Tamara had a really good point too about sort of using signposts and for timestamps, so like the passage of time. I don't know how specific you would want to get with that because once you lose your actual phone or something. But I think just generally that can help too. And it also sort of, I guess, ramps up like the tension of like being outside and exposed for this long. Because for a while they just sort of seemed to go, well, we should get over across the river. We'll do it. But I think just like maintaining that sort of pressure on her would be sort of a way to bring it all up. And, overall, though, I really liked it. I thought there was a lot of good stuff in here. And I'll stop there.
Right on.
You want me to time you, Clay?
Yes, please.
And how many minutes?
I'm doing 6.
6.
He said he's doing 9.
I can do 9.
I'm sorry, I was looking at it upside down.
6 or
All
9.
right.
You choose.
All right, and you're off. Go for it.
Okay. I agree with pretty much all the points that have been said. I made most of those points as well in my critique at some point or another. But I'll just go through my bullet points here. I agree with Gordon on the blocking, but having spent a lot of time in train cars, I was kind of able to transpose myself into one. But I still was a little confused as to like which part of it was flooded, which part of it was not, and what did that actually look like, and especially when she was holed up in it. And that comes to something I'll talk about a little bit more later. But that being said, I did really like your descriptions of characters and the world when your purpose was to get us to visualize things. So like when you describe the gorge and you describe what she's seeing out the train window and you describe the initial wreckage of the train, though I didn't necessarily understand exactly what it looked like, I thought you did a good job of like putting that image of carnage in my head. So you're really good at that kind of stuff. I also really like the refrains and all the callbacks. Those are really fun, especially when you utilize them for like transitional purposes. You did that a lot and really well. And it kind of made the story feel like it was really well structured. So that was nice. You have really good comedic timing. You always do a good job with that stuff. But I agree. It wasn't like There was a couple that made me laugh pretty good, but mostly it's like smiling to yourself while you read, which is I love that kind of humor. In horror, I feel like if you go too much over the top with that, it can cut into the tension. And I think you did a good job of being funny without ever cutting into the tension. And actually, there's some places where the humor is even like right there holding hands with the tension, and it works really well, especially with regards to Kevin being a creep. You did a really good job with the tropes. I really liked how you used everything, and I won't spoil all that because there's a lot of fun there to be had, but I thought you did a nice job with that. Good work with the toxic nice guy as your bad guy, with fucking Kevin. He's a super creepy dude. And on that note, you also did a really good job of like subtle things that cranked up the tension. Like he was creepy, and then he went from creepy to being like downright threatening when he's like, "Oh yeah, I saw it on your ticket where you're going." And then it's like just like small things like that. And there was actually several instances that I thought were like nice little subtle things that you did. That really ramped up the tension and made me feel a lot more immersed in the story. One example is you actually never show us where they say each other's names, like where they introduce each other or anything, but just later in the story, they know each other's names and you don't draw any attention to it. I actually thought that was a really nice touch. On first read, I was like, when did they learn each other's names? And then on a second read, third read, I was like, actually, I like that because it kind of like really illustrates how much they don't like each other. Like they know each other's names and they still don't call each other by each other's names. So it really helps to demonstrate like how little they think of each other for different reasons. Some areas of consideration. I agree with Tamara. I like the theme of like losing time. I thought that was really cool. And I didn't think of it from a feminine lens, obviously, because I am not feminine, but I did really enjoy that concept. Like I tell that it was important to the story. I would have liked to see it maybe explored a little deeper. And I had more about that in my comments. I was a little confused as to why the chain sped up in the first place. I got the impression that Kevin had something to do with it or that he knew why it happened. What I didn't understand is why he would do that. He doesn't really strike me as a domestic terrorist because his main concern was like trying to get in a underage or like a girl that's much younger than him's pants the whole time. So he's like a creeper, like Tamara said, but he didn't strike me as like, and not that he's like not a shitty enough person to do that, but like probably not like a bold enough person or like a motivated enough person. So maybe it was that, but I didn't really buy that, I guess. And then I have to ask, like, because I like the joke about no one works on this fucking train, which is true. If you go on an Amtrak, it feels like that is the case. But you will see engineers and stuff if you go towards the front. And I would think an engineer would slow the train down and would want to go back to the last stop or something. So I would want to see, just for my love of realism, a more realistic reason for the train to speed up. And if Kevin is the reason, because you hint that, then I need to see maybe a little more like evidence that he's capable of that kind of monstrosity. Because that is a pretty big thing. Like he killed a lot of people in that case. And
1 minute.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
The last point I'll bring up, I have lots of other stuff in my notes that you'll get to, but the main point for me being the guy that I am, which is like adventure horror, isolation horror guy, I wanted to see a lot more of the struggle of survival because you can really ratchet up the stakes with just some simple things. I agree with Tamara. I want to see her looting the train and picking out all the cup of noodles. And then when it's like a week later, there'd be a pile of cup of noodles and she's out of food and she doesn't know if she can eat stuff that's outside because it's nuclear radiation. So she's ran out of her reliable food source and now she has to ask, is it worth going out there and dealing with fucking Kevin? Because I can't stay locked in this train forever. And that kind of stuff like would keep the tension ramped up and would keep the narrative movement going forward, where I feel like once she gets to the point of I got to cross the river, but there's that long kind of period of why isn't she trying to cross the river on her own? I want to see a reason for that, because otherwise she seems like the kind of character that would have at least tried to do it by herself. She shows that she doesn't need or want Kevin's help. I feel like she would have tried to do it by herself at some point. And I'd like to see her have that agency or have a very strong reason that is taken away from her. And I'll stop there because there's more I liked, but we got 6 minutes and that's how much it has been. Great work.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. This is all really, really good feedback. I really did enjoy writing this. It's interesting because when we're working with these types of stories where we have prompts, it's so different from, just like the lightning strike kind of stories, like when you're washing your hair
Yeah.
and going to bed at night or something, and something just kind of comes to you. So it is kind of interesting when you're just kind of trying to put it all together. And when Clay said Amtrak last month, I've actually taken the train from Sacramento, California to Denver, Colorado as like a 20-year-old. I didn't have anything quite like what Cameron happened. It was kind of an amalgamation of all the different unfortunate interactions like I've just had as a female. But what was so funny was that I originally took that train because at the time I was afraid of flying. And I don't know if any of you have ever been through a gigantic mountain range like the Sierra Nevadas and the Rocky Mountains on a train. But it was, instead of like 2 hours in the sky, I spent 2 days very high up in the sky, now dangling off of a mountain. And so that was,
not scary at all.
Flying's not so bad, is it?
But I think, so that was kind of like my first image, was being a girl by herself on a train. And then I knew that I needed to incorporate the geography. So that's kind of where the research went. I did so much research on Hanford, more than I think I probably ever should have, and more than anybody should. I'm now terrified of that.
Yeah, as well you should be.
Yeah, didn't really think too much about the fish, other than I kind of had the image of like a salmon ladder, but the ladder being train cars. So that's kind of where that came from. But then mostly as I was kind of looking at all of the geology when I was going along that train route, and I kind of had already come up with the theme of it, of kind of like the stolen time. And then I came across the Twin Sisters monument. And then I just started reading more into that. And it was one of those really weird things that I know that you guys know this, that magic happens when you write. And then so when I read that folktale and how it kind of fit into what I was already writing, I was like, oh man, okay, well, that was just serendipitous. And that's, where I came from that. So I don't know. I think like just kind of as an example of like when you work from prompts, sometimes that research just kind of gives you just little bits of magic. So yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, the research is really important. So I know both of you guys mentioned, or two of you mentioned, the apron that she made, and that kind of came from like my own experience with radiation is like through X-rays. And so I thought, she wouldn't know what to do, and would totally not be effective, but just how funny it would be if she was just trying to put metal on herself to protect from the radiation. And so that's kind of where that came from, because she really is pretty stupid when it comes to like a nuclear fallout, other than knowing that it's bad and being exposed is going to be bad. So
we all are, actually. Nobody knows what to do.
I like that, because there's a joy that comes from watching somebody very competent do things like, like spies or like things like that, or detectives. But also too, there's a very like interesting bit too to watching somebody who doesn't know what they're doing try their best. If you as the reader suspect that it's not going to work. Exactly. Well, they're doing something. There's still agency there, even if it's not ultimately effective.
Yeah. And I did just kind of I just wanted her to be relatable. And the same thing when she's thinking about, well, can I eat the fish? Are the fish safe? Like, would there be radiation in the water already? I don't know. And so it was kind of all of those just the same things that I think I would have been asking. And Clay, when you said, why did the train speed up? I needed a reason for it to jump the tracks. And I had kind of like an image that everybody was running to the conductor, running to the engineer. Some kind of scuffle happened. And
that's what I interpreted it from, because she asks him and he goes, I don't want to talk about it. I was like, it's your fault, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think it definitely wasn't. Fucking Kevin.
Being a hero, I know what to do. We just got to push it this way.
Yeah, definitely wasn't intentional. But again, I didn't know if I wanted to spend time on exactly what happened. If it would take away,
I would say that you could look at because I don't know what the nuclear event is. I don't know how big it was,
Mhm.
because if it was big enough, it could send like a huge wave
Yeah.
that could actually impact the train on the tracks and knock it off the tracks.
Right. Yeah.
So depending on what the event is, I mean, it could be that could actually happen. Considering logistically, that could make sense. It just depends on what kind of event it was. So
Right. Yeah. I did do some of the research into like what could, like, for example, what could possibly happen at Hanford.
yeah.
And so, and it's not something,
Oh no, you went there.
yeah.
Oh my
Oh, yeah.
God.
Oh yeah. And so, so it's not necessarily like an explosion, kind of like a Chernobyl thing, but, you know, the tanks that they keep all that stuff in isn't safe. You know, I mean, they
Yeah.
like to say that it is, but it's not. And so I thought, like, if it was a really big event, then she probably would have been dead within a couple of days, and I needed her to be around a little bit longer. So
Right.
yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. So again, yeah, I went into the whole, like, how long before your hair starts falling out? How long before
Yeah.
your skin comes off? You know, all of that stuff. So I think those were
Good
all
times.
yeah, I know, good times. But yeah, I think those were all of my. Oh yeah, and the timestamps that you guys were saying, kind of, that is very good to. I feel like I was starting to kind of run out of time and just get really frustrated with myself with everything, and so that's why I was like, I'm just going to speed this up and end this story, and work on it later. But yeah, I will definitely kind of add more of the timestamps. I do love the idea of showing her slowly starving a little bit more, to see like her motivation and what's going on physically with the nuclear event. And yeah, it was a fun thing to write.
Yeah, man, you know, it's a first draft. So, I
Yeah.
mean, Clay and I both all last year,
Yeah.
last season, we
Yeah.
wrote a lot of things knowing, oh, we're going to have to patch this up a little bit later too. And
Yeah.
definitely this was way better than my worst stories for sure.
Oh
So,
my goodness.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I
You've
did
got
have
all
to
the stuff you need.
yeah, I did have to keep reminding myself. I'm like, this is just a first draft. I have more time.
Yeah.
I have more time. But I think, like, when you kind of get stuck into like, this isn't exactly how I want it, but I know that it needs to get turned in, and then it can just get frustrating. So, but I had to keep reminding myself that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, when is the story done? It's when you have to turn it in. It's never finished.
Yeah, when you have to
get rid of it, until you give up on it.
It's done for now. Yeah.
It's done for now.
Is a story ever really done though? Is it?
Yeah. I know.
I keep finding typos and things that have been through like 3 publications. So.
I know. I actually I went to a reading with this woman, author named Melissa Bank, and I had read her short fiction in some journals a long time before I even went to the reading. And then she had a collection. So I'm like, awesome. I want to go and hear her read. And she's really an interesting person. She read one of my favorite stories and she totally changed the story. It was like, it's already been published and now it's being published again. And it's a completely different story. And it was the one I read before was kind of funny, dark, but funny. And the second one was extremely not funny at all. And I was like, wow. But, you know, I mean, that kind of gave me this sort of liberation to say, okay, this story is done. This is the best I can do with it in this moment. That doesn't mean you can't go back and work on it and improve it and fix it or take it in a different direction. And nothing can really, you know, so that's kind of, there's a little freedom in that.
That is incredibly liberating, even after publication, to think like, well, I'll just go back and fix that.
Right?
Somebody, I want to say it was the author Mike Allen, was talking to me about when he was putting together his first collection, and he asked Thomas Ligotti for advice. And Ligotti said anytime you republish a story is an invitation to edit it again.
Yeah.
So, just like, there's absolutely no like loyalty to what it was in the original version. So every time get to like tweak it again. So
it's really interesting. You know, I want to. Yeah.
That's why I refuse to ever reread stuff.
Well, you know what? If you decide to package up your previously published stuff to send it out to places that accept reprints, you will look at it and go, here I can, you know, because you've grown and changed and become a better writer since you wrote that. I mean, this year I've had a lot of reprints accepted, and so I have gone in there and kind of tweaked it a little bit here, fine-tuned it, you know, sanded it down over here, whatever, polished it. And, you know, they found new homes. So you never know. You might be going back.
Yeah.
when I put together my first collection, I like did a spreadsheet of like what the stories were, how long they were, like point of view, tone, all sorts of stuff. But I also did character names, and I realized that I had killed so many Sarahs that I was like, this sucks.
Oh,
So I had to go through and I had to change the names in like all but one of the stories, because I was in a workshop with a woman named Sarah, and it was just always like the first name I went to. No, she's a lovely woman, like nothing against her, but it's just like the name that I went to, and they've been published, of course, like over the several years. So I hadn't realized it until I like saw them all together. I was like, this has got to change.
Either that or you got to name the collection like the
Just
1,000
Sarahs.
Deaths of Sarah or something. Yeah.
Just fuck Sarah.
Fuck Sarah.
actually, that's a really
Kill all Sarahs.
really cool idea.
That is a fantastic idea. I would totally read that book.
That's an anthology waiting to be made.
It
Sounds
is.
like you can read it. It's probably Gordon B. White is creating Haunting Weird Horrors and
No,
just change
seriously,
every name to
sorry.
Sarah. Yeah, and that's something I love about doing this exercise specifically too, is something that's so important, especially if you're kind of new to writing short stories, is like, not that any of you are, but if you are someone who is out there, finishing stories is such a huge first step. Like, and that sounds obvious, but like, we all know we have like drawers of unfinished stories, and that's like the stories that don't get fixed. Like you can't fix something that you don't finish. It's so hard to do. And if you actually get to the point where you can consistently finish things, you'll find that you can consistently fix things and probably start getting more consistently published. At least that's been my experience, and the experience of a lot of people who have given me good advice over time. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we all find that from this exercise. I know I did last year, but
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think about that idea of finishing stories, the importance of that, or how
Well,
that
it's a
has
numbers
impacted
game
you?
too. You can only write so many bad stories before you accidentally write a good one. So
And a good ending as well.
yeah.
Yes.
It's true. Yeah. And I kind of said that during the flash fiction class that I taught, was that, flash fiction is such a good way to, have something complete, especially when you're working on something much larger, like a novel or something that seems to take forever. It's such a great sense of like satisfaction that I completed this. This is a complete thing. Even if it's tiny, it's something that you completed. So
Seriously. And I was in that workshop with Emily, and I actually wrote a 100-word drabble as a result of that workshop. And the thing that I learned that I guess maybe I knew, but it never really stuck, is that if you're going to write that short, that you really need to know how it ends, and then you write to that ending. And of course, that makes perfect sense. I mean, otherwise you're just spinning your wheels, you're going here, you're going there, and then suddenly you don't know. But I have to say that the story that I wrote for your workshop is using these same exact prompts. So I'm going to send this story off to Emily later so that she can see what I did. It's totally different, but obviously it has to be different. It's only 100. It's a drabble. It's only 100 words. But what a cool, even if we've all been writing short stories, but no one can know all the things. I mean, it's like Julia Child did not make all the recipes. You know what I mean? She always had this like such excitation over making new things, and it's because no one can do all the things. And so there's always room to grow and learn and pick up new things, and our processes change as well. So endings, I liked the ending in this story, by the way. I liked especially the last 3 paragraphs. I think it was just really powerful, and it satisfied more than just the situation at hand. It was much larger, so that's really cool. And you did that in a first draft, so there you go.
Yeah.
Did you know, out of just curiosity, did you know you wanted that ending, or did you discover it along the way?
I discovered it along the way. I mean, I knew, I kind of knew where it was going to head, but I thought that it was going to happen a lot sooner. So I think kind of waiting until the end to kind of drive that point home, that came later in the thinking process. So
It does that. Cool
was there
thing
like a
too,
specific?
that, like,
oh, sorry. Go ahead, Gordon.
It does that cool thing that like good titles do, where they mean one thing when you start reading it, and then they mean another thing when you get in the middle, and then you get to the end, you go, "Oh, now I get it."
Yes.
Yeah,
wow, this is a great title.
Yeah,
Yes.
I changed the last, like the dialogue, probably like 10 times. And then like when I was
Really?
fine again, I was just like in the shower one day and I was like, oh, that has to be it. And then I went back.
There you go.
Running out like dripping wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, that
that's
was a good
awesome.
story. So, do we have? Do you have any other questions for us, Emily?
I think I am good. I'm excited to read all of the notes, all the other comments, and yeah, see what I can do. See how I can make this better.
Nice. All right.
Thank you
So
very
we. Oh, you're welcome. It was
Oh, yeah.
fun, and it definitely feels like a Northwest story. I mean,
Mhm.
it's so much. I love it. I love it.
Yay. Thank you.
So we have two things that we have to do, some orders of business. One of them is to release the next prompts for Clay, who's in the hot seat next time. And then I just wanted to see if you guys have any events or news that you wanted to share. So where do we want to delay the prompts to the end to make Clay squirm a little longer? Or do we want to do that and then share? What do you guys want to do?
I'm up for anything.
Yeah.
Wild and crazy.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's coming up and we'll make Clay squirm, because
Oh, that's good.
There we go.
that's
Let's
what
do
I'm
it.
gonna
We're gonna
do.
steal him of those extra 3 minutes to work on this story.
Yeah, exactly. I can't even start thinking about it yet
Nope.
until the
So-
final bell.
So do you guys? So I know, Clay, you have a bunch of stuff coming up.
Yeah.
So what events or things you want to share with the audience coming up in the next month or so?
Yeah, sure. Nothing quite in March, but April and May I have lots of stuff happening. So the first week of April, I'm going to be a pro at NorwestCon for the first time, so that's exciting. I'm going to be on a whole bunch of panels. So if you want to come see me talk about horror, even more than you already have to endure, you can do that at NorwestCon and even pay money for it. Not to me, just to NorwestCon, to come to the con. And then the week after that, I am programming the writing track for SquatchCon out here in Port Angeles, which is kind of a miniature Comic-Con. We have lots of cool people coming. Some of our featured guests are like voice actors from Star Wars and the Buffy the Vampire Slayer universe and the Scooby-Doo universe. So we have some awesome guests coming out.
Was that you're doing?
It was not. It was
Scooby-Doo's gotta be Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, that's what you say.
I am bringing one Scooby-Doo person in Kendari Blake, who is a
good.
local author who's written for the Scooby-Doo and Buffy IPs. She wrote a Hex Girls book, who, if you happen to be a adolescent preteen, like at the time I was, the Hex Girls were probably one of your animated crushes. So shout out to you, Kendari, for keeping that dream alive for everybody. But yeah, she'll be out there, and she's going to be doing something pretty cool for us. We're going to be doing Fermented Fiction. That's my other podcast where we debate movies, books, and shows. We roll 2d20s. If you roll high, you debate for it. Roll low, you debate against it, no matter what you actually think. We're going to be doing that live on stage twice this year. Once at SquatchCon with Kendari Blake and Lish McBride. They're going to debate K-pop Demon Hunters. That'll be Friday the 14th of April. And then in May, we've got Matt Dinneman and Philip Fricassi are going to debate Friday, May 1st. They're going to debate the Art the Clown trilogy. The Terrifier trilogy live on stage.
Nice.
So that'll be around
Oh,
5
okay.
p.m.
Fun. Yeah.
They'll both be great.
And we'll all be at Crypticon.
Yep.
We'll all
Yes,
be doing
all four of
panels.
us.
Are we?
Yes, you are, Gordon. I've got you on like
Fuck.
3 panels. I just haven't told you yet.
I'll be selling stuff too. So
Hell
you can
yeah.
Listen to me or buy from me.
We're gonna be busy.
Are you going to be teaming up with Luciano again?
Yeah, Luciano
Sweet.
and I will have a little table.
That's a fun
Alright.
table. Go check it out. Luciano Morano is another friend of the show, friend of the Fermented Fiction realm, and he has awesome books. He also will murder
Yeah, a
you.
bunch.
You just have to pay him $20. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good time.
He will murder you. That is so fun. Yeah. Cool.
And then my last thing. So lots of rambling here. I'll talk more about the Crypticon anthology, or maybe you can talk about that one, Tamara, because I've been rambling. But I also am releasing the sequel to Crevasse, my second book in the Voices from the Cold trilogy, at Crypticon.
Yay.
So that's going to be, we're going to do the book launch party. at Crypticon on Saturday. We don't have an exact time yet, but if you like rock climbing horror, adventure horror type stuff, that's the second book. And you can technically start in the second book. It's kind of written to be pick upable at that point, but you can also read the first one. It's a novella. It's 90 pages long, so it's pretty easy to catch up. So yeah, if you're into all that stuff, lots of stuff happening.
All right. How about you, Gordon? Anything else coming up your way?
Yeah. So at the end of sometime last month, this month, February, but people listening to it would have been last month. I did a reading on the Story Hour, which is a really cool weekly podcast where they do two writers will read a complete short story of theirs. If you go to www.storyhour2020.com, you can see all the links. I've been there like several times, but the one I read last time was a wedding horror story that was one sentence long, but 4,000 words. So it goes and goes and goes. So you can find the recording of that there, or on Facebook or YouTube. Story Hour 2020. Next month, or this month, whatever you listen, in March, I have a story coming out in Nightmare Magazine called Will the Last One to Leave Please Turn Out the Lights? I think that's what it is. It's the only title that Wendy Wagner, the editor, has not made me change. I don't know why. I put that one on there just as a placeholder. But it's technically a novelette, I think, with the edits they gave me. It just creeped over 7,500 words. But that's coming out. It'll be both in the magazine, which is an online thing, and they're going to do a podcast version of it. So you'll be able to listen to it if you're lazy, or read it if you're not suffering from terminal brain rot. And then I'll be at NorwestCon in April teaching a class on how to come up with ideas for fiction. I'll be in July, I'll talk about it later, but in July, I'll be teaching for the Mill Creek Library System, teaching a 4-hour class on how to come up with ideas. I did it last year for 3 hours. They were like, we want you for an extra hour. I was like, are you going to pay me for that extra hour? And they were like, yes. And I was like, I am so there. So that, and then I'll be at Crypticon as well.
Yeah.
As Clay said, with Luciano Morano, whose debut short story collection, Gargoyle Safari, just came out a couple of weeks ago. I provided a blurb for that, but it's really good if you like sort of hard-boiled horror. It's a really great one. So Luciano Morano, Gargoyle Safari, check it out.
Nice. How about you, Emily?
I'm not nearly as busy, which I'm kind of happy about.
Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody.
Clay tells what we're doing.
Like I said, I'm always here to help, so that's good. I am actually the Pacific Northwest Writers Association. Their contest is open. I run that contest. If you are a horror writer, the odds are in your favor. We don't really get as many horror entries as I would really like them to have, so please enter the contest. It's really cool. You get critiques with it and a chance to win some money this year. I'm also helping with some other anthologies, help them put together. I will be at Crypticon. I'm very excited. Don't know what I'm going to be doing yet, Clay, on the new panels, I hope. So, and then, of course, just always constantly working on my new novel and a couple of short stories coming up, trying to get into some good anthologies. We'll see if that happens. The deadline is soon. So yeah.
Well, I'm joining everyone else with being at Crypticon and also SquashCon. And Clay and I are currently in the process of working with the team to finalize the selections for the Crypticon 3 anthology. So that's something that we're working on right now, and that will come out, I think, in April, right before. April, is that right before?
It's published at the convention.
Oh, it's
May 1st.
Okay, May 1st. Okay, cool. So most recently, coming up here, I am going to be reading at the Kirkland Art Center on Saturday for the HWA New Moon reading event. I'm still working on that story, but it's done, and I just need to work on it a little bit more. But it's done. So yeah, I know it's one of those things, and that's this Saturday. And then for those who follow my Substack at Rhymes with Camera, I have been on a hiatus, but it's coming back starting March 2nd, and it's going to be weekly, and it's going to be a little bit different depending on the week of the month. So taking a different kind of tack and publishing smaller but more frequently. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm looking forward to reconnecting in that way. And then following on Emily's heels after the first HWA Sunday workshop, I'm going to be teaching a workshop called How to Hand Sell Your Work
Nice.
for the HWA, and that's on March 8th. March 8th? Yeah.
Is that in person or is there an online option?
That's going to be online, and that's just through for the HWA. But yeah, just talking about hand selling. Did I? Yeah. So we're not hands. It's not a live thing, unfortunately.
It's not a hands-on
live thing. It's not a hands-on demonstration, unfortunately. But I probably can't get everyone to come over to Kingston because there's a ferry, so that's like the other side of the world. So you can't get people to come out of here for anything. So anyway, yeah, and then the cons, and gosh, I have a new book coming out in September, so I've been working with the editor on that, and I've got a bunch of pieces that are coming out in just different stages, but nothing to maybe announce this time. So anyway, a lot of stuff. I think we are ready to give Clay.
I have one other thing that I didn't realize.
Oh yeah, go for it.
So I was just looking, and apparently an anthology that I'm in was released at the end of January, but it's called Experimental Files, and it's a tribute to author Gemma Files. It's an anthology of tales inspired by experimental film.
Nice.
Her novel about cursed movies.
Oh, that's
so cool. I'm a big
so it was
fan of
edited by
Gemma
Sarah
Files.
Walker, who was the Sarah who died a lot in my other stories. But she's still alive. And she's editing these things. It's got new fiction. It's got new pieces by like John Langan, Michael Sisko, Maria Haskins, me.
Wow. Nice lineup.
A bunch of people. So check that out too.
Experimental Files.
I also didn't want to give Clay even an extra second of this.
Attaboy.
With the prompt.
Attaboy.
Well, I'll make sure and put all of these things in the show notes so that anyone who's listening can then go check back in a day or two. We'll have it up, and then you can check and research for yourself. So, all right, are we ready? Are we ready to give Clay an assorted mystery box of ingredients?
I think so.
Okay, so who wants to go first? Who has a location? I can't remember.
I have location.
Okay.
All right.
Gordon.
So, one of the things that I love about our state is how much nature there is. We are, in fact, the evergreen state. Mm-hmm. Seattle is called the Emerald City due to its many parks and green belts. I love that. And I want you to explore that, but think local. We have a lot of great national parks and state parks, but I would like this to be involved with a city or a county park.
Okay.
Those can be big, those can be small. Like we've got one up on the street that's literally like this big. If you can't see, it's like pockets. 6 inches big. Some of them are much bigger, but a city or county park.
Nice. Okay.
With a name, it's got to have a specific name. It can't just be, there was a tree.
Love it. Love it. Already got it.
A tree does not just make a park in the state of Washington. It's got to be more than just a tree. Because the whole state, that means the whole state.
At least 2 trees.
2 trees and a tent.
The smallest grove possible.
All right, so Emily, what is the trope then?
Okay, I debated about this because I think just by saying the trope can almost feel a little bit like a spoiler, but it is my very favorite horror story trope, and that is everybody's in on it. So think like Rosemary's Baby, or
oh my God, that's so scary.
Or even Get Out, or what's the other? Texas Chainsaw. So maybe not everybody has to be in on it, but someone's in on it. It almost kind of feels like you're spoiling the plot, but I believe in you, Clay. I know that you can do this.
Thanks.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that one. That's a good one. All right. So I'm going to throw a funky little monkey wrench into it with my quirk. And this was inspired by all the storms that we had over the winter. And it is derelict boats.
Ooh.
Okay. Because I live in a fairy town for people who don't know. And so when you have these big storms, there's all kinds of just, flotsam and jetsam. And a lot of times you find derelict boats where people have boats that they had anchored out off their private beach or even in a marina somewhere, and they just cut loose and they're just floating adrift. And so derelict boat is gonna have to find its way to a park
Okay.
in some way.
Yeah. We can do that. We can do that. That'll be fun.
Okay.
Perfect. I love everybody's in on it too.
Yeah.
It feels
And
like
we
we're
have
out
to-
with this prompt even.
What's that?
What's that?
It feels like everybody's in on it with this prompt. We're like a park and a
Yeah.
boat and lots of
Yeah.
people.
I know, isn't that funny? It's so funny.
Perfect.
But yeah, you can see connections. Isn't that amazing how that works though?
Mhm.
Every time. Every time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we'll figure something out. This will be fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
All right.
Well, thank you guys. I'm excited to get writing. I'm excited to have a good reason to dive back into writing short stories because it's been a little bit. So
Yeah. I'm excited to see what you come up with.
it'll be a good time. And in the meantime, you've got a month, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Beneath the Rain Shadow, episode 2. Thank you, Emily, Gordon B. White, Tamara K. Salmon, for helping me host this show. And I've been Claver Mullum. We appreciate you all tuning in. We hope you are having as much fun with this as we are. We'll be back at the end of next month, that is March, to critique my story. And then we'll be giving Gordon some prompts. And he will take off with his, and we'll do that all year long until we got 12 stories that we'll put in a collection called Rain Shadows Volume 2. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can go check out our website, rainshadowstories.com, to learn more about everything, and Tamara will put all the good references we've mentioned throughout the show in the show notes. I'll also be releasing this on my Substack, the Fermented Fiction Substack, as we're kind of under the Fermented Fiction umbrella. So if you want to get all this delivered right to your inbox, just go join Fermented Fiction on Substack, and that's how you can do that. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've been Beneath the Rain Shadow, and we'll see you next month. Goodbye.